Okay, good morning or afternoon, Mr. Aguilar again. Now we're going to go over some of the more focus terms that you're going to be having to apply or understand on a more closer level than the previous broader terms we talked about last time. However, you need to know what economics is, you need to know what money is, and you need to know what a financial system or financial revolution is to understand these next terms. So make sure you watch. I think I titled the video like Economics 1. Make sure you watch that video before watching this video. I'll link it in this description if you can't find it. But it should be where you probably clicked on this video from the same worksheet. Okay, cool. So first we have credit. I already alluded to this previously, but credit, pretty simple. It's the ability to obtain goods or services before payment, such as those princes of the Renaissance. This is just a board game I found, based on trust that the payment will be made in the future. So yes, we know the princes of the Renaissance. Again, I said the princes who were able to obtain services such as like soldiers to fight and defeat other princes of the Renaissance prior to having to actually pay for them. They had a huge advantage, right? But credit can be applied in much more simple contexts. You don't need to be a prince of the Renaissance to be able to buy things on credit. A lot of people buy things on credit already. I don't know, maybe some of you have gone to I guess you guys don't really go to GameStop anymore. But like when you're buying something like kind of expensive, like a gaming system, or something even more expensive, like a car, or something even way, way more expensive, like a house, the vast majority of the time, you're going to be buying those things on credit. So like for example, a house, they're going to cost you like $100,000, like at least. That's like not even like that great of a house most of the time if you're like really trying to get a super duper nice house. You still can, but it's going to be very rare and few between. You're probably going to have to go to like a not as nice area to get a house. That's only $100,000. So you're probably going to be having to spend around like $500,000. But are you supposed to just like chill outside and just like sleep outside until you earn $500,000 to finally buy yourself a house? No, I know some of you are like, why don't you just rent? Yes, there's renting. But the bigger story is a lot of times for financial systems or an economic system to work, you're going to want people, or it would be advantageous for people to be able to purchase things on credit. It'd be much better in an economic system, thinking macro again on a big scale. If you want your workers to be like well rested for the next day of work, so they can produce more goods in whatever factory or whatever system you have, it's a little bit more ideal if they're able to purchase a house without having the money for it, but they'll just pay for it later, usually in installment payments. Like monthly, they'll pay off their house. So that's credit. Being able to buy stuff before you actually have the funds to buy it. A lot of you are like, well, what if that trust is broken? What if you try to buy that house, but then you're not able to make the payments on time, and then you never pay off the house? Well, a lot of times the bank will be able to seize your house. A lot of times the bank will be able to seize your car. So there are methods for which credit and the trust between the customer and the bank who gives the loan to buy whatever good or service you're trying to get, that trust can still be maintained on a citizen-wide level. However, we will see that trust break down a little bit in the Great Depression, as we're going to see this is the first time where the average American citizen can buy many different things on credit. Washing machines, dryers, cars. There's going to be a lot of big products that Americans are finally able to buy. It's going to be the first time in history where people are going to be able to buy things on credit on a large scale, not just the rich. And we'll kind of see how that works out. Okay, next up is a stock market. This is a place where shares of ownership of public companies are bought and sold. So this, I think it's kind of good to talk about that with like credit as well. They're vastly different, but there are some similarities, okay? So basically, stock market is an invention of a capitalist system. I probably should have had capitalist in here, but I didn't want to include so many terms. Capitalism is essentially a term where you allow private companies, so people like not affiliated with the government, to maintain a large share, some would say the total share of an economic system's decisions. So instead of like the government determining, this is what we're going to make, this is who's going to make it, and this is who it's for, and an economic system known as capitalism, private companies, so people who just come up with business ideas, are the ones who make these decisions. But if you're starting a company, you're going to kind of like need money to start that company. That's kind of what a stock market is for on like a early scale. On a later scale, it's a little bit different. But early on, there's going to be people or businesses that are going to bring their company to a stock market. And they're going to say, a lot of this is digital now, but there's still like physical areas where this happens. They're going to say, hey, this is the idea of my company, and I hope that you have trust in my company. If you do, you can give me this much money and you will have a share in ownership of the company. So essentially, yeah, that's how a stock market works. They'll take those shares of ownership in the company. They'll, a lot of times from important stockholders or people that own a share in their company, will take some of the ideas and tips they have, but most importantly, the money that they have, to help them kickstart and jump their business. For businesses that already exist, you might be like, well, I know people that buy Tesla stock. Yeah, that you can still buy shares of companies that already exist and are already flourishing quite a bit, because they can even expand and grow their company even more if more people are giving them money to continue their company. That's basically what a stock market is, but you're probably thinking in conclusion, why would people just like donate to own a share of a company? One, you will, at times, if you have a huge share in the company, you'll have some stake and decision-making power in what that company does. But more often than not, like the average person, say for example, you buy a company when it's like a stock in a company when it's not very big, but that company flourishes and becomes a very huge, successful company, and now owning a share or a part of that company is super valuable. Well, you can sell off that original share you had to make a net gain. Say you buy a stock or a share in a company that's $10, but then the company becomes super successful. Now a share in the company is $500. Well, you can sell that share and make a net gain of $490. That's kind of how a stock market works. And again, kind of like credit, this is the first time where the average American consumer is allowed to have a big part and have the ability to have a big part in the stock market. So the average Joe or Jill can just buy a stock and hope that the stock's value will increase and then hope to sell it off. We'll see how that works as well. Tariff. So a tariff is a tax imposed on a particular set of imported, so that's when a country gets a good from another country and brings it within their borders, or a tax on an exported good, so that's like when a product leaves a country and goes to a different country. And I'm sorry, it kind of cut me off here, so I will zoom out a bit. No, it doesn't look as great. But yeah, here we go. Just so you can see that diagram in the bottom left. Tariffs, you're like, why would you maybe you don't know what a tax is. A tax is basically when, just because we live in Oregon, so you guys don't really interact with taxes usually on a daily basis. But taxes are basically when someone makes some sort of decision that a percentage of the product's price should be added to that product upon transactions, right? So we have a perfect example down here. Say in country A, it takes $12 to make a towel, okay? And then in country B, it costs $10 to make a towel. So obviously the towels cost different amounts of money to make based off of a wide variety of factors in this like fake example. So why do you put tariffs on goods? There's like a billion answers to that. But as if we can see this diagram, it's kind of suggesting this primarily. What if you're in country A and you want your towels to be competitive in terms of like people buying those towels in your country? Well, you can put a tariff on towels made in different countries, such as towel B, to make it cost the same amount as a towel made in your own country. Like, why not just like have everyone be able to buy the cheaper towels from country B? Does that like make way more sense for people's wallets? Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. That's what a free market person would basically argue. However, you could make the argument that, well, there's a lot of people who work in the towel making factories in country A. So if country B is selling cheaper towels than country A, that's going to undercut or kind of make uncompetitive the towels from country A. And all the people working in the towel factories in country A are now going to be out of a job. So is it actually increasing their economic well-being? Well, in this little fake, very simplistic scenario, no, right? So tariffs are when you impose some sort of tax on an imported or exported good, and people usually do this. I'll I'll kind of tell you for two reasons. One, they're mad at another country and they're trying to like hurt that the economic stability of that country. Or B, a little bit more often, the country is trying to protect jobs back at home, specifically in manufacturing. Okay. Sorry, we're almost done. Fiscal and monetary policy. I've written like encyclopedia books on this, but I'll make it really simple, and it's already been 10 minutes, so I'll kind of like be quiet. So there are two types of ways that people usually try to fix the economy. That's through fiscal and monetary policy. When the government tries to fix the economy, that would be fiscal policy. But when a central bank, which is hypothetically supposed to be detached from a government, tries to fix the economy, that's called a monetary policy. And this is basically when both of them try to fix the economy or stimulate the economy. Now, I have like actual tangible examples, which is kind of nice down here with this really beautiful chart. So again, fiscal and monetary policy, these are policies that attempt to affect economic growth. And it says government policies. I kind of disagree because technically the central bank isn't supposed to have a lot of government interference, but, supposed to versus actually, there's a big difference. So some examples is like maybe the government will do things with taxes or maybe increase or decrease government spending in an attempt to make the economy do better. That would be a fiscal policy. Whereas maybe the central bank is going to make interest rates different. It costs more money to get loans and stuff like that. These are all things, or less money to get loans. These are all things that the government or the central bank can do to try to fix or stimulate an economy to be a little bit stronger. I don't want to go a little bit more in depth with that. I'll give you one more example. You guys remember like the COVID stimulus package or whatever, where the government tried to give people money? Yes, they did this a lot to try to help people just like buy simple goods because a lot of people were out of jobs. But some would argue that this was also a stimulus bill to try to get the economy going again. If no one's buying anything in an economy because they just lost their job and they're being very stingy with their money, well, then there's not going to be any factories running because who are those factories making goods for if no one's buying anything, right? So some people would have argued that the stimulus policy of the three, because we actually ended up with 3 stimulus bills, was an attempt to get people a little bit out of their house, a little bit more spendy with their wallets, so they were actually buying stuff, so there's an incentive for factories to hire people, sell products, and get the economy rolling again. Obviously, I vastly oversimplified that, but just trying to give you a tangible real-life example of what would that be? Yep, that would be a government policy because the government made that decision for the stimulus. So this one says Donald J. Trump, but also Joe Biden. I think he's the one who made the third stimulus. I forget who had. I think it was Trump for the first 2 checks, and then Joe Biden made the decision on the last one. Okay, last one. This is the thing you're going to see quite a bit. This is the New Deal. So I'm not going to go super in depth because your documents are going to contain these things. But the New Deal was fiscal policies, so these are things that the government tried to do in an attempt to end the greatest catastrophe, economically speaking, in American history, the Great Depression, a time period in 1929 to like basically 1939, where there's a lot of problems in the U.S. economy, and you'll see why and how in your packet. Some of these fiscal policies included the WPA, where the government would fund public work projects. Basically, we're going to build a bridge, we're going to build infrastructure, we're going to hire people using government money. So people are working, and if people are working, they're going to get a paycheck. If people have a paycheck, they're going to be able to buy stuff. If people are able to buy stuff, then businesses will be able to have an incentive to sell stuff and hire more workers, so then more people are going to be working. So that was the WPA. We also have Social Security, so same kind of concept, making people a little bit more spendy with their money, but this was for old people. That's what Social Security is for. And then something even more local, like the Bonneville Power Administration. This is when the government decided to build dams, utilizing work funded by the government, in hopes that these dams would become a key economic contributor to society in the Northwest, which it's kind of inarguable that they are. So yeah, that's the basics. Please let me know, or let your teachers know if you have any questions, but you can also let me know. I'm in room A202. Okay. Have a good one.